Dentistry for All and CUPS. So CUPS is this organization that looks after the vulnerable populations here in Calgary. Such amazing work that is being done over there. And now to Licky. Licky, you are referred to as the blind spot navigator. Now, I know when I'm driving, I sometimes fail to look in rearview mirrors. So I'd like to learn a lot more here. You are passionate and your candid nature, engage with audiences. I've seen you in action. Not only do I call you Mr. GQ, and I say I'd like to be you when I grow up. He is younger than me, but that's our secret, folks. Don't spread it around on Facebook, all right? And I'll move over to Shaquille. Now, Shaquille is founder of Ocean Blue Strategic, a leadership coaching firm focused on improving competency, character, and confidence of leaders. How amazing it is to have the three of you here to speak about leadership. And what we are going through is unprecedented revolution. All of the stories of our fathers are all crumbling, and we are now in a new story that has emerged to replace them. And that's why I've invited you, that we can learn to support and inspire one another in order to get through this unprecedented, challenging time and come out stronger and more unified. So I would just like to see if there are any comments from our viewers, none as yet. So what I'd like to do is, I'd like us to first start by reflecting to the time when, we heard about, at first was said Corona, and then it was referred to as COVID-19. In the beginning, what were our thoughts? And just take a couple moments and let's analyze those moments before I dive into the questions that I'd like to ask. Is that okay?
Sure.
Awesome.
It's your show. It's your show. Yeah, you can do
no, you are the co-host, so it's not about me here. It's we are the co-hosts. So shall we dive in?
Sure.
Awesome. I'd like to start with you, Jed, because I think that is really something that just struck me as, oh my gosh, where you had created a video, and in that video, you were so open, authentic, raw, and honest. And this is remarkable that the leaders that I grew up with, and the leaders that I am actually older than all of you. I've been working for a while, and the managers and all of that, they would never come up and be authentic and open and honest. And where I'm going with that is that when that happened, what you did, Jan, was you came and you told that we don't know what we don't know. And you were talking to your staff, and you were being very open, vulnerable, and honest, and sharing that, yes, you do not know, and how to go forward. That's quite incredible. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, COVID-19 has been something that none of us have ever seen. We've not experienced anything of this nature in really any of our lifetimes. And so we don't know the answers, right? And that's a big part of how we deal with things. And, one of the things, it's actually quite interesting that above Licky's head there is the 5 dysfunctions of team. And the base of any pyramid in terms of relationship is trust. And in order to build trust, we need to be vulnerable. And so we talk about this with our team. I actually just did a presentation to 12 people yesterday and went over that pyramid of trust. And in order to build trust, people need to know who we are and how and we need to be vulnerable. And so at the beginning of all of this, I mean, I reached out to our team of all the staff members, and we had to let everybody go, at a single point in time. And letting 120 people go at once is challenging for anybody, especially when you're the boss and you're helping employ these people. And so we told them, look, we don't know what's happening. We're not sure how this is going to play out, but we're here to support you, and we're going to get through it together as a team. And fortunately, we actually hired them all back to the day that they got fired, and they never actually lost their jobs because we took advantage of some of the stuff that was happening. But really, it was about just being open and honest with them and telling them, I don't know the answers, but together we'll figure them out. And the feedback that I got from the team was just amazing, because they said, hey, we're here with you, even though we know that you don't know, and we know this is challenging on you. It's challenging on everybody, but we're in this together. And that's been the nice thing about COVID, I think, is that everybody truly is in this together.
Yeah. Oh.
That is so true. And sharing just that, you could see the flicker of recognition from your staff. And it is so important that we are there for them, and the way you share that. That was just incredible. Now, you not only do have your dental clinics, but you also have the fitness place. Can you, that's quite interesting. The two polar extremes.
Yeah, and people think that they're extremes, but to me, we're in the wellness industry, really, at the end of the day. I chatted with some of my team yesterday, and I said, if we only talk to people about cleaning and brushing their teeth, we've missed the boat. We were talking earlier about Licky and how the bike riding he does, and Shaquille's getting out for his runs. If we don't take care of our body, our mouth is really not going to be healthy. And if we don't take care of our nutrition, our mouth is not going to be healthy. And so when we keep telling people, brush and floss your teeth twice a day, if we forget about the sugar intake, if we forget about working out, the teeth are not going, it doesn't matter how many times you brush and floss your teeth. If you're eating and drinking pop and sugar and candy all day long and not working out, it's irrelevant. So to me, they actually go hand in hand, even though a lot of people are like, well, dentistry and a gym, how does that work together? To me, they work perfectly together.
That's really awesome. And yes, Licky, tell us a little bit about, before we dive in further, about your bike rides and what you're doing to raise awareness. And before I go further into this, I'd also like to share that the three of you have a string that is running through that is tying the three of you together. And that is the TREC Partnership Walk. Now, Licky, you were with the organization for quite a while in BC, and you chaired that, and you really set the bar high. Shaquille, what you've done for the national program, that was also incredible, and I'll come to that in just a moment. So, what do you think about what Jen has said, Licky, is about, looking after all aspects, even the health?
Well, the health is important, but I want to go back to what he started talking about, the trust and vulnerability. And in any relationship, whether it's home or in work, that's the foundation. And I've been working with clients on that for a number of years. But what really got to me was people have a hard time being trustworthy and being vulnerable. And you go into organizations, start talking to them, and we realized that there was a lot of limiting beliefs, a lot of blind spots in the way to become trustworthy and being vulnerable. And that's where, you say blind spot navigator, it's actually BS navigator. It really is. It's your BS that's in the way. And, once you get the BS out of the way, then you can start really being trustworthy and being open in those conversations. So yeah, the trust and vulnerability Jan talks about is key. It's key in any relationship. And it's been a real interesting journey to be able to talk to clients and people about their blind spots, being able to find those and being able to look at those. And I love the analogy you used about when you're driving, you're always checking them, but in person, we're not asking these on an ongoing basis. We're not hearing you.
We're not hearing you.
We're not hearing you.
The reason I do that is sometimes I type, and when I'm typing, I don't. It was happening. Tuck, tuck, tuck was happening. So I'm trying to cross-pollinate and make sure the individuals on LinkedIn are coming and watching us live. So my apologies. Thanks for giving me a heads up on that. So where I was going with that is that thank you so much for sharing that. And the thing that intrigued me was your posts on, they're really sharp, the ones especially on Instagram that I've already been following. And what I wanted to ask about that is that the thing about that is, have you caught yourself exploring the times when you've had to adjust the lens? Because oh my gosh, things have been happening. I'm like, Alnoor, wow, you say you're one way. Now let's look at your
I'm on mute.
navigator, right?
Yeah, no, and I'm on a journey on a daily basis to find my own blind spots, and it's become almost a habit. And the biggest way is really asking people. So I had last year, I was in New York for a course every month, and I built this inner circle. And one of the questions I asked my inner circle was, how do I show up when I walk into a room? And they kind of step back and they go, are you sure you want to hear the answer? I go, well, yeah, I want to know because I want to know my blind spots. They go, well, you actually, when you walk into a room, you look like a pompous blank. And I was like floored when they said that. And they go, well, no, hang on, until you start speaking. And I go, okay, tell me a little bit more about this. They go, well, when you walk into a room, you're well-dressed and you don't smile. And I thought I smiled a lot. Now, Jan, you'll get a kick out of this. When I smile, my teeth seem to be crooked. So I want to hide my smile. I'm smiling like this, and I don't really have a full functioning smile. But that shows up as that I don't care. Shows up as not approachable. And I never knew that. So that was a huge blind spot for me. So now when I walk into a room, I'm smiling with my eyebrows and wearing t-shirts, forget the GQ look. And now I'm actually a lot more approachable. Now you think about that conversation. Are leaders open to asking that question? How do I show up in the organization? Is there enough trust in the organization to say exactly how you show up? And if you do get told, do you want to do anything about it?
Interesting, interesting. So, Shakil, I'd like to go to you now and ask: is that you know what Jen and Licky have shared, and when he asked the leaders, "How do I show up?" How do you help these leaders and team navigate disruption?
Yeah.
What it is about? As I said, the stories that we have been telling ourselves, the stories that we've been hearing, do not work. What does that look like, and what does that mean?
Yeah. So when you think about navigating disruption, I've defined it as being a makeup of 6 kind of behaviors and practices. And I won't go into detail in in all of them, but I'll touch on the ones that are very connected to what Licky and Jan are talking about. But really quickly, for me, the 6 things related to managing and navigating disruption from a leadership perspective is, of course, you have to have business acumen, right? Basic foundation in a leadership role, you have to have business acumen. But business acumen is more than just dollars and cents and financials and process and execution. It's also understanding the impact you have as a leader on your organization and the society around you. It's much more than about business, right? It's about the impact on society. And then there's the idea of design thinking, the ability to understand what is the need you're satisfying and working backwards to develop your set of products, services, solutions to ensure you're tying to the need or pain point that you're satisfying. Then there's the idea of growth mindset, this idea that we're always growing, we're always learning, to take and embrace criticism as actually an impetus for learning and growth. And that's what I call a growth mindset. And then there is getting very close to what Licky and Jan are talking about. 3 elements: leader character, a balanced perspective of being very hard driving and dedicated and operating on a level of discipline with your expectations of your people, while at the same time having the character to have humility, empathy, and a nurturing behavior with your people. And that's where the vulnerability kind of shows up. Then there's the ability to communicate with more than just your words and your ears. It's being able to communicate and listen with your eyes. I call that empathetic communication and EQ. And last is the dynamic practice of self-reflection. And it's in that last 3, the leader character, the self-reflection, the empathetic communication, is where I think the trust and the vulnerability and the looking at blind spots comes in. There is absolutely no growth without addressing blind spots. I totally agree with Licky. And there's no growth if you are not willing to be vulnerable with the people around you, because how do you expose your blind spots? I spent a lot of time in the last year trying to break down how do you become self-aware, and the idea of blind spots and the inclination not to be vulnerable. Actually, the seeds get planted when we're children, right? When we are children, we have what I like to call a lonely soldier protecting us, and this hidden crow that criticizes, is a self-critic. And those two mechanisms work to protect us. So the self-critic says, don't do that, you'll make a fool of yourself. Right? And the lonely soldier protects you from any criticism that you get, because they're like they're protecting your ego from being hurt by criticism. So that is built in a very young age. And it builds up into our adolescence and teenage years when social pressures are so big. Now, as we become adults and we function in the world, for some of us, those internal mechanisms, that lonely soldier and that crow kind of become our friends. And we have to learn to manage that friendship and let them go, so that we're not so self-critical and we're not protecting ourselves from feeling that we're criticized. And so that's where the idea of this blind spot comes in, is letting those individuals go and using them to our benefit and advantage. So I like to do it this way. My whole mechanism around self-reflection is using the whole power of nostalgia. We all have experiences, memories, people in our lives, everybody has them, that these memories, whether they be good or bad memories, they keep showing up in our brains, right? There's some things that you think about, those recollections you have that you've been recalling all your life. And the idea is to stop and think about why. What was that experience? What happened in that experience? Let me uncover that experience, and let me identify, what did I learn from that experience? And how am I practicing in my conduct today with relationships and in leadership that actually are derived from that experience and the memory of that experience? And when you connect the dots there, then I think you have the opportunity for true self-reflection, vulnerability, and the ability to uncover those blind spots.
That's awesome. And you know, and that's the thing, is that we are trying to get away from what those were. And you know, just before we started the show, Jen, I'd mentioned that I'd even seen another one, and how you were getting emotional and tearful, and the way we grew up. Now, I love how Shaquille said that, and lots of storytelling, because that's the way we remember things. My grandmother, Nanima, was an amazing storyteller, would always sit on her bed, and I've developed that habit when I deliver my keynotes or webinars and that. But the ability to move individuals on social media and showing your own vulnerability when growing up. Now, the thing about this is that all four of us are from the same culture. We have the same commonalities where, again, growing up, male toxicity was what was important. That is the message that was shared. However, what really struck me here is, Jan, you shared on social media that you were tearful and a tear rolled down. And as a leader, have you ever been emotional in front of your staff, for example? Are there times when you go, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have done that, when, or is that part of your living mindset with the infinite mindset?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important. I mean, I think for people to understand where you get emotional and what drives you, I think it is important. I don't think it's a weakness. I think it actually ends up being a ability, again, to build that trust and the strength behind it. And so, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are times when we'll talk about some of our volunteer trips to Guatemala and doing dentistry, and you'll get emotional because you're out there doing and changing things that not everybody has the ability to. And so I think when people see that emotion, they also connect better. And if they connect better, they're going to stick around. And, I have this conversation as I interview people, and it may be mildly inappropriate, but I don't think so. As I tell people, I said, when you come and apply, I expect you can do your job. That you applied, I need a dentist, I need a hygienist, I need an assistant. You have a degree of some sort to do that job. But would I enjoy actually spending time with you? Do you fit on my team? Because it's a family. I mean, we truly consider, even as large as we've gotten, that we've created a family. And I joke, I said, I don't get to choose my family, right? Like the family that you have around you, your extended cousins, and my core nucleus is fantastic. But everybody has that cousin or that aunt or uncle that, hey, I can't get rid of them. They're just part of my family. But we don't choose that. But I talk about to our team, and I tell them, I said, we choose you to be part of our family. And we can choose you to not be part of our family, but you also choose us to be a part of this family. And that is more important to me than your ability. I expect you to do the job. But for you to fit in this role, in this organization, it's something more than that. It's about the giving back. It's about the values, and it's about enjoying each other's company while we're doing it. I spend more time at work than I spend with my family. And if I think that it doesn't work that well, or if you just simply do a job, I can probably find somebody else to do it. And so, we talk about the family we choose versus the family that we're born into. And I think that there's a difference, and I think it's important. And so I don't think that vulnerability is bad. I mean, I think it's actually great. And, the other point that you brought up, and I think it's even so more important now, is that you talk about, your teeth and your smile. Well, we now all have to wear masks. So you're not going to have to worry about your smile, but you can have a mask on. I mean, here in Calgary in the next week, we're going to be required indoors to wear a mask. And I actually do think there's some benefit there.
Well, that's why he's got a backup system. His eyebrows, there's backup system.
Right. And that's exactly it. And science has actually proven that people look at your eyes and then your smile. Those are the first two things that they look at, is your eyes and then your smile. So we're going to have to really work on smiling with our eyes, even more than we ever have, because they can't see our smile anymore. And that's tough for people to smile with their eyes. So I think that you're already at one step ahead of it, Licky, as you've figured out how to use your eyebrows and your eyes, because it's going to be even more important over the next 6 to 12 months, I think.
Well, I never knew what smize meant. Apparently Beyonce does that really well. I had no idea what that was until somebody called it.
Thank you so much for that. I too, like Licky, am quite conscious about my smile, or when I look at the videos. And you were talking about that, the critic, Shaquille, where those voices go on, because those are the things that we heard as kids by people who we looked up to. And that is taming that inner critic, because we can be our worst enemies. And where I was going with this is that when I look back at the videos, I'm missing a tooth in the front.
Yeah.
And a month ago, I had to remove the tooth next to it. It's a primary tooth. And I'm like, no, I can't even chew. And I don't know if you know, but I have lost over 200 pounds. And now, even with COVID, people are saying that they're putting on weight. By the way, any of you behind the yeast shortage in Canada?
My wife might be.
Or went crazy over.
We've been looking for a while.
Yes. And so what I'm saying with that is that inner critic of being judged and all of those, that happens to the best of us. And with that, I'm so glad that you use humor as well, Licky, and talking about, I didn't quite catch what that was about Beyonce, but I'll have to look that up. Google that up. My wife knows everything, but no, not in this case, or in other cases. So where I'd like to go with this is that how can our perception then equal performance when all of these things are going, especially when we don't know, and also being mindful of the time. It is 12:25, so we have a few more minutes. If you can quickly summarize that for us, Licky, and then I'd like to go to some final points from each of you.
Well, like Shaquille said about the inner critic, right? If your inner critic has this limiting belief of not being good enough, your performance isn't going to be good enough. And if your performance isn't good enough, your behaviors aren't good enough, your results aren't going to be good enough. So we really have to work on what our perceptions are. And our perception equals our behaviors, which equals performance. So we start working on, removing some of those limiting beliefs, some of those stories that we've been living with. Like my smile issue comes from when I was 3 years old, when I had all my teeth taken away and they didn't go back till 10. So I'm seeing a dentist every week. And, back in the third world countries, they weren't that great. So I've got a fear of dentists. But I had to deal with that. I had to put that aside because that was causing my behavior, which is causing my performance. So every little thing that happens is based on that. You think about some of these soccer players right now. If their perception is, I'm not a good enough soccer player, are they going to show up at the field playing 100%? No, they're not. They're going to be showing up as not good enough, and they're not going to be performing well on the field.
I love that. And, that really ties into what I wanted to ask Shaquille over here, is that you're certified as a motivation factor practitioner. What exactly does that mean for the rest of us over here? And I would like to move into the closing thoughts.
Sure. I'll be as brief as I can. It's think of a pyramid. As we think of pyramids, Jan talked about pyramids, hierarchy of needs, but think of a pyramid of motivation. At the base of the pyramid is our energy, our emotional, psychological, and physical energy. We need to understand what drives our energy to be boosted up and what drains our energy. And many of us don't, but taking the time to understand that. And if we can understand what hurts our energy and understand what boosts our energy, and we can dig to the next layer and level of the pyramid, which is understanding our needs. Usually our energy is drained when our needs are not being met. But oftentimes we don't know our needs. And our energy is drained when other people are not meeting those needs. And they don't often know our needs. And so having that awareness of what our needs are was a key part of helping us manage our energy. And if you can understand your needs and manage your energy, then you're in a position to take control of your own motivation. Because if you can, nobody else is responsible for meeting your needs. Unless you're a baby and you rely on your parents to feed you, nobody else is responsible for meeting your needs except you yourself. And if you manage your needs, manage your motivation, then you're in a position to really fulfill your true purpose. Because then you'll align next level your talents towards achieving your purpose. But you can't do it unless you're managing your energy and having and being responsible for your own needs. But that's the hierarchy of motivation.
Love it. Now, where can somebody find that? Do you have it on your website? Or how can people?
Yeah, okay. You can go to oceanbluestrategic.com /motivation.
Okay.
And there's a bit of a description there about it.
Fantastic. Now, how can I understand the three of you are fantastic speakers? Shaquille, how can people? By the way, do you have any books out?
Not yet. In the works.
Okay.
In the works. Yeah.
Okay. Licky, I know you have one coming soon. It's in the works. And Shaquille, how can people get a hold of your? Is this the place? Got the LinkedIn, the website, the email?
I'm on LinkedIn, active on LinkedIn. Yeah. And then there's my website. I have two websites, shaquillebarmal.com. And then there's oceanbluestrategic.com. They both connect to each other. One is much more about me, and one is much more about my practice.
Well, your practice is who you are, too.
Absolutely. And
sharing your emotions and all of that. Licky, how about you?
LickyLove.com and LinkedIn. And as far as we're talking about the book, I received my first draft to review last Saturday.
Congratulations.
I'm scared to read it, but that's my project for this weekend, is to read it and hopefully have it ready for publishing in a month.
Congratulations.
That's fantastic. Now,
if you go to our website, you can actually take a blind spot assessment test. I know Shaquille's taken it.
I've taken it. It was pretty accurate.
I did too.
Yeah, I will be taking it. I thank you for that email. I really appreciate that, Licky, that you've sent me that. We are running out of time right now, but quickly, Jan, are you three of you okay to stay just a few more minutes while we finish up? Thank you. Jan, how about you? besides jumping off an airplane with your superhero outfit, helping people fix their smiles. Licky, please, I think he has shown up that he will take hold of our fears and allow us to cry and be men, because men express emotions and cry, so we can go to Jan, right, Licky?
Yes, you betcha. Let go. Let it go.
Let go of the fears, right? Jan, how about you? Besides going off to all these different countries and all of that, what is happening? Do you have a book coming out? How can people get a hold of you and all of that?
Simplest is, again, you can get a hold of me, Instagram, LinkedIn. You can see the website. My email address is drjan@trecflow.com. So it's all linked together there.
Yes.
Easiest way to find me. You can find me online. I mean, it's just, yeah, no, it's fun. I mean, there's just so much amazing stuff happening, and as long as we're looking out for others, I think we're gonna do really well. And especially during this time, I think one of the challenges that we're finding is that we may not have the same resources that we did a little while ago, but we still need to make sure that we take care of the people around us, and make a difference in our lives if we can do that.
So that was my next statement, is that how can we prepare ourselves for a world of such unprecedented transformations and radical uncertainties is by being there for one another. And it is community. And that's where I was going to, is that I'm so grateful that you are taking your kids to play with their cousins, because that is community, and that helps to solve so many problems, with what the Partnership Walk has been doing, is helping communities at the macro and micro level. And what the three of you are doing in impacting all of that it's simply incredible. I just cannot. It's just, I'm at a loss for words, and I'm just thanking you for being brave leaders who are being unstoppable by showing up, by being vulnerable, by talking about the blind spots, by understanding our past and how we can use and shift from the soldiers and the crows and level up and be great in the world. Are there any final words from you, Shaquille?
I really like what Jen said. Look after each other. Let's look after each other.
And how about you, Licky?
By being vulnerable, you're able to open up conversations, and that'll help people get united even further.
So true. And so we are going to be rewriting. And the thing about rewriting is that not to set in stone, because you never know what's going to happen in the next 6 months. But that is the way we plan for our future, is that, we can all pivot and disrupt, as these three leaders have been doing, by, showing up. Is if things don't work, yes, build your roots, but you're not a tree. And I also know the story about you, Licky. So thank you for modeling those. Design your life. I think that was design your future. What was that again?
Life by design.
Yes. And you've been doing exactly that. And bravo for pivoting, all three of you, and not staying, rooted. And I wanted to say thank you again for joining us. Why do I do these? Is to have chai conversations. So not only can we build community, but also be there for one another. And that is what these heroes are doing. If you'd like to hire me for your next virtual Master of Ceremonies, keynotes, or webinars, please do reach out. You can find me on YouTube as well. I'll be downloading this on YouTube, and I'll share it with these heroes. Until next week, I'll be having another Chai with IamAlnoor with heroes to help us pivot in these